The monkeypox virus has spread across at least 75 countries now. A DNA virus which is not new but has emerged as a cause of international concern. The World Health Organization has sounded the alarm, declaring it a global health emergency. Community transmission has been recorded in dozens of countries worldwide. What is the driving force behind these numbers? How contagious is monkeypox? How worried should we be? How can we avoid transmission or treat monkeypox? We will address all of these questions and concerns in the next half an hour. Hello and welcome. My name is Hem Saroya and you're watching The Full Context. Let's begin.
I have decided that the global monkeypox outbreak represents a public health emergency of international concern.
Right here, right now. That has to do with our RDNA.
Now, after 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic, it's understandable that the news of a new virus spreading across the globe, it's a cause for alarm. But before getting into the details, it is important to mention that as per health experts, monkeypox is unlikely to create a scenario similar to that of COVID-19. This even as more cases are being reported. Nonetheless, monkeypox, it is a cause of worry and we must be prepared and implement lessons learned so far through the pandemic. Now, there have been more than 16,000 cases in over 75 countries with 5 deaths. These are the worst hit countries. Spain has the most number of cases, topping 3,000, followed by the United States of America, just slightly under 3,000 here. Next most affected countries, Germany and United Kingdom with over 2,200 cases, then France, Canada, Brazil, the Netherlands and neighboring European nations. The risk in European countries has been deemed very high. India has reported at least 4 monkeypox cases, with the latest being a 31-year-old man from the national capital with no foreign travel history. 3 other cases have been detected in southern state of Kerala as well, with all of them believed to be connected to travel from Gulf countries. The first confirmed case of monkeypox was reported on the 14th of this month, a 35-year-old man with a history of travel to West Asia. Although it has not reached the phase of community transmission yet, health experts say that it might reach that stage sometime soon and we must remain vigilant.
This disease may be affecting population in a stepwise pattern. So now we are almost these 3 cases are coming from Gulf countries. So we have got a connection with the Gulf countries. That may be the reason that we are getting more cases in Kerala. So as far as it is good that we could identify the cases from the expatriates itself. In second phase, sometimes there will be local transmission among these expatriates. Then again, we can limit if we are able to identify the contacts by contact tracing.
Now, unlike COVID, the monkeypox spreads via close contact and tends to cause flu-like symptoms and pus-filled skin lesions. Health experts have welcomed the WHO's decision to issue the emergency declaration, which until now had only been applied to coronavirus pandemic and the ongoing efforts to eradicate polio. The decision should help contain the spread of the viral disease globally. Now, for better understanding, we're now being joined by Dr Julian Tang, clinical virologist, respiratory sciences, University of Leicester, UK. Thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast. My first question to you, what do you think is the reason for the resurgence of the monkeypox, and that too at such a scale? What do you think is driving up these numbers?
Hi, good morning. Well, at the moment, it seems to be focused on those who have sex with men who have sex with men in these sexual networks, which are international. We've known this from studies on HIV and other sexually transmitted diseases over many years. It's curious that this virus seems to be staying very much within that network at the moment, because we know that monkeypox is actually not classified as a sexually transmitted disease per se. It's endemic in parts of Central and West Africa. It's not sexually transmitted only in those situations, and there are reports of household transmission within those families, short range of transmission that usually peter out after about 5 to 10 transmission chains.
Right, absolutely. Thank you for that clarification. Also, what role do you think weakened immunity from COVID plays in the unprecedented accelerated transmission of monkeypox?
Well, a lot of countries have actually lifted COVID-19 restrictions now, so there is free travel. And I suspect that those within that sexual network, who are very promiscuous, may well see this travel as a kind of freedom, and they are now exploiting this, as are other people who are otherwise normal holidaymakers. So this enhanced global travel may be driving this monkeypox spread in the aftermath of the COVID-19 restrictions being lifted.
Right. Now, we've also spoken a lot about virus mutations through the COVID-19 pandemic. What can you say about the nature of this virus and the cycles of mutation?
Yeah, so the monkeypox is classified into 2 clades or lineages, if you like, Central African, West African. And the West African ones spreading from Nigeria and Sierra Leone, for example, may be the ones that are driving the network. Certainly the sequencing seems to suggest that. But also the West African strain is mutating as it spreads globally. And that's the worrying thing, whether that mutation trend is driving transmission in different ways beyond just skin-to-skin contact, maybe short-range aerosol transmission, for example, which we know actually does happen with monkeypox as well.
Right. Well, Dr. Julian Tang, do stay on with us. We will come back to you for more information on this, but let's just get you some other pertinent information regarding monkeypox. It's not a new virus, like we said, and it spreads primarily through close contact, as has been mentioned earlier. That being said, there are, of course, a lot of questions regarding transmission, symptoms, cures. So let's just try and answer some of these concerns with the information available till now. Now, in the past, people typically caught monkeypox by coming into close contact with infected animals. That could be through an animal bite, scratch, bodily fluids, feces, or by consuming meat that isn't cooked properly. The first human case of monkeypox was detected in 1970 in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Since then, the virus periodically caused small outbreaks, though most were limited to a few hundred cases in 11 African countries. It is possible that the virus has evolved to become more transmissible. So how contagious is monkeypox now? Experts say the transmission is really happening from close physical contact, skin-to-skin contact, according to the WHO. The virus can also spread by touching or sharing infected items like clothing, bedding, or by respiratory droplets produced by sneezing or coughing. Other routes of monkeypox transmission include from mother to fetus via the placenta or during close contact during and after birth. A majority of the cases this year have been in young men, many of whom identify as gay or bisexual, though there is little evidence that monkeypox transmission occurs through semen or other bodily fluids exchanged during sexual intercourse. Instead, contact with infected lesions during sexual contact may be a more plausible route. But it is also important to note that this is not a disease limited to the LGBTQ+ community. As explained by Dr. Andy Seal, an advisor with the WHO's HIV, hepatitis and other sexually transmitted diseases program, anybody can contract monkeypox through close contact. Now, what are the symptoms and how bad can monkeypox infection get? Now, monkeypox, it's part of the same family of viruses as smallpox, but it's a typically milder condition. According to CDC, on average, symptoms appear within 6 to 13 days of exposure, but it can take up to 3 weeks. People who contract the infection commonly experience fever, headache, back muscle aches, swollen lymph nodes, general exhaustion. About 1 to 3 days after getting a fever, most people also develop a painful rash that is characteristic of pox viruses. The easily identifiable rash of monkeypox, as well as its earlier symptoms, could be considered beneficial. It starts with flat red marks on patients' faces, hands, feet, mouth, genitals that swells with pus over the course of the next 5 to 7 days. Cases have only involved a single lesion. Many of the cases have only involved a single lesion or a few pustules in the genitals that do not spread to the rest of the body. Children and people with underlying immune deficiencies may have more severe cases, but monkeypox is rarely fatal. There's also one strain found in Central Africa and can kill up to 10% of infected individuals, but there have been no confirmed deaths reported outside of Africa during the current outbreak. Now, this New Yorker who was recently infected with monkeypox explains what it feels like.
So I had some lesions that were internal, not just on my skin, but also on my mucous membranes all over my body, basically. And those were the ones that were super painful. So before I started the medication and before I was able to get pain medication from my doctors, the pain was so severe for me that I basically was taking warm baths 6 or 7 times a day, just because that was the only thing that would make me feel better. It interrupted my sleep, which was really unfortunate. I was trying to rest up because I was sick, but the pain was keeping me awake.
Now, what precautions can you take? DNA viruses like monkeypox are generally very stable, evolve extremely slowly as compared with RNA viruses like coronavirus or Ebola. So prevention may be comparatively easy. Now, the main strategy is raising awareness of risk factors and educating people about the measures. Now, the good news is that there is a lot of the same measures that will reduce your risk of COVID, like social distancing, wearing masks in public spaces, practicing good hand hygiene and surface disinfection can also reduce your risk of getting monkeypox. And lastly, if there is any treatment for monkeypox. Now, if you get sick, the treatment for monkeypox, it generally involves symptom management. Several studies are underway, however, to assess vaccination for the prevention and control of monkeypox. Some countries have also started offering vaccines for public, which work both before and after exposure to monkeypox. The FDA had approved a vaccine back in 2019 for 18-year-olds and above. The approved vaccine protects against smallpox and also monkeypox. The New York City Health Department opens 3 mass vaccination sites providing the monkeypox vaccine. Europe has approved and bought vaccines for immunity and to treat their population as well. Once again, we're now being joined by Dr. Julian Tang. Thank you so much for staying on with us. Now, what I want to ask you is, monkeypox has been likened to other pox viruses. Do you think this is a correct characterization? And what does this mean in finding a cure or treatment for the virus?
Yes, monkeypox is one of the key orthopox viruses that we know infects humans as well as animals. The mutation rate has been relatively slow, but if you infect many, many people around the world, that mutation rate may accelerate because you have many passages through the host and mutations that follow that. The virus is actually a lipid envelope, so in fact you can still disinfect quite effectively with alcohol-based disinfectants. The lipid envelope will fall apart, the virus can't bind to host cells, and it's not infectious. The interesting thing about what's going on now is that you don't know whether 2 people having sex, one of which has monkeypox, you don't know whether that, in fact, the other person is infected by inhaling the breath, exhaled droplets, aerosols of that person's monkeypox emitted from the mouth and nose, rather than just skin-to-skin contact, because, as you know, during sex, you have very close contact with skin-to-skin touching, as well as kissing and cuddling and inhaling each other's breath. So we cannot separate those modes of transmission, unfortunately, despite what many people say.
Right, absolutely. Now, at present, given what we do know about the virus and as per the current risk assessment, how equipped do you think we are to deal with an outbreak like this one?
So, coming in the aftermath of COVID-19, we should be well equipped to do this. The only problem with that is that there's fatigue. So people may not want to go back to social distancing, masking, enhanced ventilation, etc., and that ruins businesses as well. If you only have half occupancy, your business will suffer as well. So there is a risk that people, they know what to do, governments can tell them what to do, and we know what to do from COVID-19, but we may just not want to do it. And with the enhanced travelling that we're seeing globally now, this kind of relief after the COVID-19 restrictions being lifted, people may not want to go back to any type of restrictions.
Right, of course. Now, that being said, what do you think are some effective strategies for prevention of community transmission?
So monkeypox is different from COVID in that there are visible signs of infection if you have the rash on visible parts of the body. A lot of patients have had just rashes around the genital areas, which you can't see normally, but some have had lesions on the face, the neck, chest, and the arms, which are much more visible. And the visibility of infection may deter people from going out when they're infected because they don't want other people to be scared of them. They may have parents keep children inside if they start getting infected, and we've seen a couple of cases now in the US. So it may spread less quickly and less well as COVID, because COVID is mainly an invisible respiratory infection. But over time, if it's not curtailed in the community and even amongst the sexual network, it will spill over to the larger population.
Right. Well, Dr. Tang, thank you so much for bringing us all the updates on this and your analysis of the situation.
Thank you.
Now, why is it called monkeypox? Because it was first discovered in a monkey in 1958 and was related to the deadly smallpox virus. First human monkeypox was identified in 1970 in Zaire, which is now known as the Democratic Republic of the Congo. A 9-year-old boy contracted the viral disease. Monkeypox had been reported in people in several Central and Western African countries as well. Now, in June 2003, the disease first surfaced in the United States. The illness was believed to have spread after rodents, which were imported into the United States from Ghana, infected dogs. 87 cases were reported without fatalities. The first major outbreak was reported in Nigeria in 2017 with over 200 confirmed cases and a fatality rate of 3%. Over the next 5 years, sporadic cases were reported around the world. In travelers, the outbreak boomed in May 2022, this year. Europe became the new epicenter. It is now a public health emergency, which means it meets the 3 risk criteria as outlined by the WHO: the risk to human health, international spread, and the potential for interference with international traffic. And that's all for the full context today.